All right, guys, welcome to the CrestCore Real Estate Hour. Here we go. Matt, welcome, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Yep, guys, we've got, make sure you're talking to Matt. We've got Matt Jones with CrestCore Realty Property Management. Matt wears 48 different hats in our building. Matt wears two good hats in our building, and a few weeks ago we had you on and we talked about Corlin Financial, hard money, the ways you can use it, the opportunities that it brings for you, and I believe it was really beneficial to you guys.
Yeah, it was great.
I believe that our clients and our audience listen to that, and it's really receptive. I know that I'm using Corlin now. I've got 2 deals I'm working with you guys. I've got others coming up. I mean, I have lines of credit at banks, and there's always a reason to use some hard money. So if you guys have any questions about the hard money piece, feel free to email Matt, email me. I'll connect you guys with him. But today we're going to talk about CrestCore Realty Property Management. And over the years, here's been my opinion on property management in a whole, not CrestCore Realty, but in a whole. I've always thought, hey, anybody that manages over 1,000 houses, all of the companies to an investor's eyes are going to kind of stink.
Yep.
Which one stinks the least, right? And I've begun, since you've taken over property management, which was it Jan 1 or what? It was last year.
Yeah, it was last quarter or fourth quarter last year.
All right. So since you've begun to take over property management, I have seen significant changes. We have admittedly, you and I mentioned I was going to talk about this.
Yeah.
We have admittedly struggled in the past, whether it's been with this issue, that issue, or this issue. We have struggled in the past. Everybody makes mistakes. Mm-hmm. Again, admittedly, we've made a bunch. I've made a bunch. I mean, it's just part of it. And when we manage as many houses as we do, 3,000 houses, mm-hmm. you're going to have complaints. Walmart certainly does not go unscathed daily with complaints in their building. We're not Walmart, but the point is that it's very difficult with so many moving parts mm-hmm. to get this right.
Yep.
I am over the top impressed with what has happened in the last 4 and 5 months. I feel like we're tightening up some of the loose screws, the ability to contact us and communicate, the prompt time and getting maintenance requests in, leasing, collections. We're going to discuss all that today and what has changed in the direction we're going.
Right.
I personally, as a 20-plus investment homeowner, appreciate where we're going, and it was my main reason for having you on today so we can kind of discuss. I definitely don't want to focus on the past. Yep. My point is to bring that up is to say there are massive changes happening in our property management division. Mm-hmm. In the past, I've even said, well, we got a new guy in, things are going to change, and they didn't. Well, here's another one that's coming in, and it didn't. This is the first time that I've brought on whoever it was that was leading our team and our director of operations of management. And because I'm doing that because I feel like we are making some legit changes. Yep. So let's talk about some of the things that we did to organize, streamline, make the communication a little better. So that my first thing, and I told you before we started here, this is going to be you talking a lot.
Yeah,
but I want to hear some of these things in detail. Reorganize our personnel. Tell me what that means and how that benefits our clients.
Yeah, so I mean, there's 2 major schools of thought in property management and how you do that. One is a portfolio-based management system, and one is a departmental system. So a portfolio management system is really you've got one guy who owns the show from start to finish. It goes vacant. They're handling everything from that point, getting it occupied, handling the leasing, and then they handle it while it's occupied and all the way through the end and the entire life cycle. Departmental, it's similar. You know, you're going to have a client services piece, you're going to have asset management, you're going to have someone who does collections, each of these areas, and they kind of operate somewhat in silos from that. And over the years, CrestCore has been everything on both sides of that spectrum and everything in between. We started in the fourth quarter last year making some adjustments to kind of marry the two, because what we wanted to do was create direct lines of sight of responsibility, accountability, and who owns everything. So we've had district portfolio managers in the past. We still utilize that system. So what we have here in Memphis are 2 district portfolio managers, and they have a team that supports them. Where this kind of marries the two is that DPM, that district portfolio manager, is the one who's responsible for everything from start to finish. But they're also supported by a team that's broken up a little bit more departmental.
The accountability, I think, is where we've always said we've wanted. You know, everybody says like, hey, I want some accountability in my department or in my company or in whatever. And it's one thing to say it, but it's one thing to actually hold people accountable for it. I took over the brokerage here in early 2017. And there wasn't much accountability before then, right? We were all working hard and everybody was trying to do their thing, but there wasn't like, hey, why didn't this happen when you said it was? Right? And then like, let's pause and wait for an answer. Not why didn't it happen and keep moving. It's why didn't that happen and why didn't you do that? And let's wait and get that response. So that really worked for me. I know it's going to help here. Tell me a little bit more about the DPM kind of responsibilities and then how it goes down. I'm asking here because I see here it's relations manager, portfolio specialist, leasing and renewals team, and then quality and billing specialist. You don't necessarily have to dive into every single one of those, but what if I ask somebody, let's say I ask one of my clients, who's your DPM, and they tell me who it is, and I come back and say, well, how's that relationship there with that DPM? Well, I never talked to them. I think that's okay. Right. Tell me a little bit about what the DPM is supposed to be responsible for, and then if you're talking to your DPM, what happened? You know, just give me a little bit of a picture of what the DPM is.
So the DPM is going to be looking at from a 10,000-foot view down on their entire portfolio, which has thousands of properties in each district that they're managing. So they're running reports, they're reviewing reports from their team, looking at vacancy, making sure that things are running through our pipelines correctly. They're handling any escalations that might come up that need to be managed, and they're looking for those weak points and plugging those, addressing our policies, changing those to make sure that we don't have those moving forward. So one of the things that we have put in place just recently is these portfolio specialists. We've had something that looked like them in the past. What they're really there to be is plain and simple a concierge service really for our owners. They interact with also our residents and are available to help them get work orders going and that kind of thing, but they're the direct point of contact. So
that's who they're going to hear from the most.
That's who they're going to hear from the most. That's who we say, you know, if you have a question and you're an owner, you're a client of ours, go directly to them. 9 times out of 10, they'll be able to answer that question. If not, they're the ones who are tasked with finding that answer and getting a response to you quickly. And then what is new and we've never had before is this relations manager. One of the things that I noticed early on is we had just put a lot on our DPMs, and that first, let me say this. We've got 2 rock stars in that role right now. Taylor Ray in one of our districts and Sheila Bryan in our other here in the Memphis department. And they're killing it.
Taylor's mine, and he does a great job.
Yes. I mean, really, really great. But we wanted to give them some additional support on work orders, really. So we created this relations manager position. We had one person that we brought internally who's a rock star. We hired a second for the other district, and they're there to manage that piece, really. So they're interacting primarily with the residents and any issues and concerns that they have and working to solve them, similar to how the DPMs are really working, you know, on the clients and the owners and that side of things. So they're running reports daily, looking at work orders and trying to get those done as quickly as possible at the best possible cost. And we've added a lot of subcontractors. We have our primary contractor, still City Light, one of our sister companies, but we've added some additional because speed and quality is the number one thing, and that's what we're here to do.
Can't have all 3. Speed, quality, and price. Can't have all 3. So we've reorganized, I guess, our personnel. We've distributed responsibilities, and we're now going to be collecting accountability from those people. That's what I love. I think you know me well enough now. I'm not going to have you on here talking about this if things haven't gotten better, if things haven't gotten improved. I would just, you know, put it on the shelf and wait till it's ready. So I can see personally the structure change, the accountability flow down. So I think that's a good thing. Let's move to work orders, and because what I'm gonna do, guys, is just go through the areas of property management and have you discuss them, what's going on now, and kind of where we're at with it. But work orders are the biggest, or one of the biggest issues or reasons for someone to reach out to us and to communicate and to talk about. Let's talk about how we handle work orders, what the process is, if there's a light bulb that needs to be replaced, or if there's what we just experienced, a pipe that's frozen and there's water going everywhere. Talk about our work order system a little bit.
Well, and work orders are probably, number two, right behind owners being worried about collections and evictions while they get a property manager to handle that.
Yeah.
And it's what we manage a lot of on the day-to-day basis. It's why we really dedicated to individuals to watching that and pushing those forward. So, when I started here 2 years ago, I managed one of our internal portfolios. So our owners have about 1,000 properties. I was managing those. And it wasn't too long ago that we had, probably 400 to 600 open work orders at any given time just with those. We now have that down to about less than 200 for each district. So, it's come down from about 800 per district to, I think we're honestly at like 120 as of today.
All right, this is good. So let's talk about real quick how you went from 400 to 600 down to there, and what was, and give me the reasons why it backed up to 400 to 600, and then what did we do to get that back down, and then what does it look like in the future for clients?
Yeah, so what we did to get that down initially was we had to have manpower looking at that, analyzing it, and owning it every single day. A lot of it looked like, just frankly, some mismanagement on our part. A work order would get generated, it populates on our system, and if you wanted to run a report, you could see that it's there. But we were really being more not as proactive as we should have been. So, until a tenant screamed at us a handful of times or an owner noticed, we weren't as fast on that. Now we're looking at that daily to get those pushed through. We're prioritizing based off, what we consider to be a quality of life. If it's 20 degrees outside and you don't have heat, we're getting on that
That's a quality
first.
of life issue. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're prioritizing those things. And honestly, the other big piece is we've added additional subcontractors so that when our standard guys, our primary guys are just overloaded and with capacity, we're sharing the love with other people because we want to get it done as quickly as possible and ensure that resident wants to stay for a long time.
Instead of just putting it in the back of the line and then hoping our guys can get to it when they can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is all. These to me are all things that are logical reactions to this.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that. All right, let's talk about leasing and renewals. That to me is the biggest. I reach out to my leasing agent, Debbie, not constantly, but I love the weekly reports that I get on Monday. I don't really have a ton of vacancies, so I don't see a ton of this, but I love when I do. I have that
Glad
report
to hear
on
you don't
Monday.
have a lot of vacancies.
I don't. If I'm being honest, I've got 27, and I don't have. I got 2 that I'm rehabbing and 1 that's vacant right now, and it just became vacant. So everything else is full and going.
Yeah.
So that's really good. So let's talk about the leasing and renewals. 30 days or less. Last time I checked, I think it was 21 days. Talk about how that process goes, who's involved with that, and our two great leasing agents.
Yeah. So, that process really starts the moment it goes vacant. And our asset management gets involved. They do a scope on the property. They're working with the owners on getting that turn completed. And then our leasing agents are heavily involved at that point too. They're analyzing what kind of increase can we get at this point. Hey, maybe if you do these few extra things, we think we can get another $50, $75 a month out of this.
I love that. Yep.
So they're working with our owners because they want to increase that rent as much as possible as well. And then they're actively putting that on a coming soon list so that people are looking for maybe that particular zip code, that neighborhood, that street can already see that it's coming. Yeah. They'll reach out to us, get in contact with our leasing agent, and they'll be able to look at the estimated completion date for that job and say, you got 2 more weeks before it's going to be ready, but we can go ahead and get the application going. We can get you approved. And essentially we can have them ready to move in, days after we've completed the job, trying to keep that vacancy loss as low as possible.
We, over the years, I've been here since 2012 with CrestCore, and I have seen different ideas and strategies for leasing. At one point, we had 10 leasing agents in here just leasing houses right and left, and inner squad cat fighting on who gets to what area and all that other kind of nonsense. We have 2 leasing agents now, and I believe it's way more productive, efficient than if we had 10 people running around trying to lease all these houses. What how do we get so many leased with 2 agents? I know the technology's caught up, but tell me a little bit about how Lauren and Debbie are able to single-handedly, because I admittedly when Chris moved on and some other thing, I was worried about, holy cow, how can 2 people handle this? But it's seamless. They're doing a really good job. Tell me how that, from a technology standpoint or just the ability standpoint, how they're doing it.
One, again, I mean, we've got a really solid team in place now. Debbie and Lauren are both really, really strong at what they do. And they also have support. So they each have what we call a leasing specialist that supports them with the admin piece of it, that are running reports on their behalf, getting information together. They're filtering, the first point of contact kind of things. And then technology, obviously, people are going to our website, looking at something, clicking a button. We also, what's really helped us through COVID is one of the big things is we have tenant turner boxes on each of our properties, which allow for self-showing. So someone says they want to look at a property, we go ahead and vet them, make sure that they're strong. We're not just giving the keys out to anybody. They type in a one-time use code that opens the door for them. They can look around, give any feedback back to us on, we kind of like this area, but we want one more bathroom or something like that. And then we just tailor then exactly what they're looking for, similar to what you and the brokerage do.
It's a cater to the client type thing. It's so cheesy, but I always tell my clients I'm going to turn into a chameleon for them. I mean, and it's just, that's the only explanation I can give you, is that I'm going to sit in your lap, and whatever your product is, I feel like it's my job to get the best one. So no, that's a great comparison. That's leasing and renewals. Let's move to asset management. Asset management could be, by definition, about a dozen different things. Tell me, within our company, what does asset management mean? What do they handle? And what are kind of the expectations there?
So as a part of the reorg too, we kind of pulled our project managers out of the districts and created a separate department for them. It's headed by a senior asset manager. He's got 2 project managers under him, 2 field techs that support them, and then 2 admin personnel as well that help there. And they're really responsible for everything from the day that property goes vacant, somebody moves out, really until they pass it to leasing and say this is 100% ready for move-in. So they're working to prepare scopes. We're working currently to update what that looks like, because we want to more efficiently offer information, because we have a host of things that, we require. As CrestCore Property Management, we have standards that we're not willing to move on. And we're going to require those in the scope, but we also know that there are certain owners that, want to go above and beyond. Maybe they want to have a really nice property here because it's near their area. I was talking with one client last week who plans to retire to Memphis and live in the property he's renting right now. So just want to keep it at a certain standard, or maybe they're looking to increase the rent with those things. So we're updating our scopes now, where there's going to be required versus what we recommend, which will go hand in hand with what I was mentioning earlier on our leasing agents being able to say, if you do this, then we can get this price. Get this.
Over the years, admittedly, this has been a sore spot. Whether it was work not completed and miscommunicated that it was, or work that was done with not much care and consideration. What have you seen since you've taken over as far as cleaning that process up?
Yeah, well, now I want to be honest and I want to be transparent. That department had a long way to go. There were a lot of moving pieces there, a lot of moving personnel in that department, but we've come a long way. We still have a ways to go on that communication piece. But like I said, we're tracking with weekly reports now, daily reports sometimes, where properties are at, and we know who owns everything, who is accountable.
The biggest thing you're saying is accountability.
Yes.
It's going to be the trend through this whole podcast is the accountability factor that I believe was missing. We said it.
Yeah, for sure.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, you know, I can say I want to fly to the moon, but if I don't get in the spaceship, I'm not going, right?
Yes.
So it's saying it and doing it are two different things. That is key. You know, and I have seen improvements from when work orders come in from I've just seen a difference. So I know that that's changing, and I know that that's something that is probably going to be ever evolving. It's construction.
Yeah.
You can't sit here and say, hey, this is going to go just like this every single time.
Yeah.
It's construction, it's moving parts. So I'm excited about the asset management department. Collections. This to investors is likely one of the most important things.
Yep.
How do they get their money? And if the tenant's not paying, what do we do? What's our reaction? How aggressive are we? Talk a little bit about collections and how I see here averages 90% collected by the last day of the month. To me, that sounds good. How much has that improved? And then just talk about the collections department and how they are.
Yeah, so I mean, I've already mentioned we've got our two departments or the two districts. A third is that asset management one, and then we have what we call a shared services department. And collections is kind of housed under there because they service every district and working with all of our clients to make that happen. And they're rock stars. It's a team of 5 people right now working on that. That's how we're able to achieve these numbers even through COVID. So like you said, we're at 90% averaging last day of the month. But if you go 2 weeks into the next month, we're at 95%. So it's not like that 10% that's left at the end of the month.
You just drop it and leave it.
Yeah, it's gone forever. No, we're actively working to follow up with those people and get those funds. Or, you know, if we have evicted people, we're sending them collections and we're, you know, collecting those funds months down the road even.
Are you seeing more people behind now that the stimulus money is dried up? Are you seeing a little bit more deficiencies as far as, you know, paying rent on time?
Yeah.
You are seeing a little bit more?
I would say it's very slight, to be honest. And one of the things that has helped is even before, you know, the $25 billion congressional relief, you know, that was put out there, there were other nonprofits, other government entities, you know,
that were helping.
So we were applying for those when we could. We were informing our residents whenever we couldn't do anything, but essentially say, you need to apply for this. We were doing those things. And on the $25 billion, here in Tennessee, specifically here in Memphis, you know, the government's been catching up with how do they orchestrate that, because Congress is funding it, federal government's funding it, but they've kind of left it to the states to make that happen. And here in Shelby County, we think we're actually going to be able to start sending in those applications March 1st, so next week, and really trying to recoup some of those funds even.
I didn't see much drop off in COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, people got to live.
Yeah.
They still have to have a place to live. I mean, I know that there's some circumstances that are unavoidable for tenants, and those situations are awful. And it's good that we provide some of these programs and some of these. I have one right now that's going through it myself. That's what I just wrote down the address to follow up on. I've got you reminded me.
Yeah.
Well, I have one that's going through some of that right now to try to help them out. So that's good. All right. So that's collections. Call center.
Call center.
All right. So I love this one for a couple of reasons, because you've fixed it.
Yeah.
One of the more common complaints I got prior to you taking this position over was, Dean, I cannot get anybody on the phone.
Yep.
I can't get my person in management. I have your cell phone so I can get you. Tell me what this call center is done to help, because I swear to you, I do not hear I can't get my property manager on the phone anymore.
Yeah.
I don't hear it. It's not something that's, I mean, I was getting that a couple times a week too. And when I say was getting it, I'm talking a year ago. I mean, this isn't anything extremely recent, but I'm bringing some of these things up because I know if you're listening now and you're watching this and you're a management client, you're like, wow, that was a problem. Tell me about what you did with the call center, you know, briefly. I know this is nothing real detailed, but let's talk about that.
Well, I mean, what we fixed most recently, and I'm talking just in the last couple of weeks, is we have updated each and every one of our clients that we brought on in the last few months, sent direct contact information to them, outlined who the team is, and we have given them the email and direct line phone number for their portfolio specialist. So that they can
let me
reach
pause.
them.
And what that means is, from the accountability standpoint, you can go in our phone system and look and check if someone's not answering their
Yes.
voicemails and returning phone calls.
Absolutely.
There's the accountability piece for that again.
Which each portfolio specialist has about 70 clients. So I'm not saying, you're going to call them 8 to 5 and get an answer 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, they will respond to you within 4 business hours.
Yeah.
Or somebody will be on top of them for that.
There you go. That's all. I love it. Improve the onboarding process for new clients and properties to ensure property management is achieved starting day one. You will not believe how many owners will close, and because they've talked with me, or even bought through, if they buy through us, we automatically connect them with you. But if they don't buy through us and they've talked to me or they've talked to you, whatever, they buy the home and they let it sit there for 2 weeks. There's a tenant in there. They're wondering why they haven't gotten their rent. And sure enough, they haven't done the proper steps to onboard the property. Talk about that just for a second.
Yes, I mean, we've exactly that. We've had clients who've bought properties. I mean, they're in their name. They own them. They've closed today or yesterday, passing over to us on the 30th and want to know, I mean, you're collecting our rent tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Like, no.
What?
But we've said yes in the past. We've attempted that, but I mean, it puts so many problems out there because no one's been able to communicate in a timely fashion to that resident. So now they've paid whoever they were paying before, the previous owner, the previous owner's property management company.
Yeah.
And we're calling them saying you owe rent, and they're saying bull crap. I owe it to. I've already paid it to this guy over here.
So where's the $600?
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, we've adjusted that process where if we don't have all the information by the 15th of the month, we will assume ownership of it starting on the 1st when it comes to like work orders and those types of things if there's an issue. But we're not saying we can collect that rent for you until the next month.
Yes. Okay. Decreased negative, and I know you have a 12, so I'm gonna get you out of here. Yeah. Decreased negative balances from 300K to 20K. Talk about what you mean by negative balance and how in God's name did you go from 300K to 20K?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, some of our clients might not love this because that negative balance essentially was us lending free money out to our clients. So, they'd put a $10,000, $15,000 rehab on us. They approved it, said they'd, pay for it. We just weren't keeping up with things. We'd do the work, and then they'd say, well, I don't have the money. Take it out of my rents. And when you're doing
the next 36 months.
Yes.
Right,
yeah. That's not going to work for us. So, I mean, we've really tightened the ship on that. I mean, we're working with our clients on that as well. Like I said, we went from 300 to we're less than 20 as of today. We have a goal to be under 10 this month. And we're doing that by checking our owners' portfolio balances that they have with us before we do any work for them.
So just understand, if you've got a rehab out there and the days of that process of just take it out are over, that's not how anybody runs their company. So I'm excited to hear that we're now a little tighter on some of those rehabs. And that, I mean, everybody really wants that. They might say they don't. Every owner wants to know that, hey, I paid for a rehab. It's done. Next month I'm collecting my rent. You don't want to operate. And I'm looking at this from outside of CrestCore, but from 30,000 feet down as an investor, you don't want to operate a home in the negative for any period of time. I mean, if you owe something, pay it, and let's just keep moving on. So great on the decreased negative balances. Accounting process. So let's talk about how, when a maintenance request or a rehab comes in, I think I'm asking the right question here. How is it billed? Mm-hmm. And how is it approved? Like, talk about that process a little bit of how it's billed, how it's approved, what prices go in, when does it get paid, when is it collected? All those moving parts.
So there's two ways. One for those turns in our asset management department, and then for just a generic work order. On the turns now, like I said, asset management, as soon as it goes vacant, they're getting the utilities turned on and they're going to do a scope that day. Mm-hmm. As soon as that's done, they're going to send a copy of that scope with photos attached to it to our owners, let them review it and approve it. And there's always going to be a leasing report going along with it that tells them if this, then that kind of deal. Yeah. And once you've approved it, then we're going to go look at your portfolio account. And if it's a $4,000 turn and you have 3,500, we're going to say, well, we need that 500 because we require 100% now.
Yeah.
Once that's there, we'll sweep that over to our account, into a separate escrow account, and begin doing the work on it from that point. Work orders, again, we have been what I would call property coordinators a little bit in the past.
I was going to ask you this.
Yeah. So, and what I think the difference is between a property coordinator and a property manager is a coordinator comes to you as the owner and says, hey, this happened. What would you like us to do about it?
And I hate it.
Yeah.
I might not ever use the advice you give me, but I can't. I'm paying for you to manage and offer up advice. Man, this one will get me fired up. If I have people come to me, if I went to one of my clients and said, "Hey, man, you offered $50K, they countered at $60K. What do you want to do?"
Yep.
What value am I providing my client? I'm just the go-between and I guess a facilitator.
Yes.
There's no value in working with me. Mm-hmm. That is not what I do. Hey, they countered at 60, you're at 50. How bad do you want it? We need to go in at this number, and here's the reasons why I suggest that.
Yes.
Tell me how you guys are managing and not coordinating.
Yeah, so I mean, we're switching from that coordinator mindset to that management mindset, and we will never send a request to an owner anymore that does not have a recommendation on this happened. We recommend this, but we need your approval.
Yeah.
We're also managing from a different standpoint of, you are the owner, but as the manager, we are the face of that property. If you don't approve a work order, we're the ones sitting in code court over that issue. We have standards too, where occasionally we might just say, code requires this, it had to be done, we've completed it for you so you don't have to worry about it, and we've done it at the best possible cost you can find in this city.
Yeah.
Promise.
I really appreciate you letting me throw a couple of darts at the property management team today while we've talked about what we're doing to change it. I know you weren't in your position when the darts deserve to be thrown, but you've come in and really, I can tell the building's changed. I can tell the mentality from the different departments have changed. And again, I wouldn't have had you on here if I didn't think that we were ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. I mean, you've been on this job 4 months, 5 months. Am I right? 5 full months now at the end of this month. And there's been dramatic changes that I hadn't seen in 2 years. So I'm excited about what's coming. Anything else today? All right, let me ask you this. If they're listening to this today and have any questions about what we talked about, if they want to get in touch with us about potentially property managing their home, who should they call? Who would they go to, and how do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to reach out to me directly. I can get you in touch with exactly who you need to speak with. My email address is matt.jones@crestcore.com. Feel free to shoot me an email there, and I'd be more than happy to connect with you.
Appreciate you, bud. I'm really glad I could bring this topic to you today. It's one that's important to me. It's important to you as our investor clients, and I appreciate you guys listening. We're going to post it on the YouTube channel here in the next hour or so. If you have questions, email me, dean@crestcore.com. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dean.
Bye, man.